Hi. Okay, let me find Lisa.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
So much better now that you're here.
How you been? You've had a busy week.
It's been crazy. It's been a doozy for sure. It's a full-on shit show, but it's all
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's funny how I'd started that newsletter a couple of weeks ago, and uh it always like the I think that we're still being generative in like all of our ideas and all of like our plans, and then when we get in sort of the thick of it, we realize, is this really the time for me to be
Tap
putting
out.
this much? Yeah.
I'm
Which is
feeling the same
yeah,
way.
which
But I feel like I tend to do that with all my shit. Like I'm like, this is a great idea. Let's start it. And it's like the train takes off and it's like, wait, I'm
yeah.
not ready. But
Exactly.
it's good. I feel like it's also good. I feel like we've been so caught up in this perfectionist sort of way of life. I mean, I don't know if it's pre-COVID or if that's the catalyst or what to like get to this like new way of thinking in life and stuff, but I felt like before it was like everything had to be perfect and flushed out and scheduled, and it's like I've never lived like that ever.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know why I was pretending I was anyways, but I think it's important to do shit and try it and
Yeah.
then go like, you know what, it's not working. I have to reroute and
Yep.
change it, rewire it, whatever. So I
Yeah.
think it's great. I got your email. I got the newsletter today. Wasn't it today that you wrote
Yeah.
it?
This
Or
morning.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah. I just, I had been sort of, I think it's going to be a better product if I can sort of stockpile content a little bit. Like as far as the baking videos go,
Yeah.
it's not really working like this sort of seat of my pants thing for the first time in my life. Like I actually want to make sure that like the video quality is good, the sound quality is good.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
good for
really
you for being a perfectionist, because
well,
my
yeah,
sound quality is shit. So.
it's I really want I want to be able to, not for a lot of reasons, but also just because I want to learn some new things, I think I'm also like I want to take some time and actually learn a process, and
Like
because
the
I'm
process of producing it, or the process of
yeah.
like new baking it. Oh, cool.
Yeah, like learning about all of this audio editing and learning about, producing on the back end after you record something. So I want to be able to take a second and deep dive, because the little things like the sound quality of the podcaster is really bothering me. So I'm like, well, shoot, it's the
I guess,
holidays. Like I may as well
yeah.
take 3 weeks and like get it right.
Well, I know some people who might be able to help you with that. So,
Oh, good. Maybe I'll take you up on that.
yeah, no, honestly, we've been at it now for a little bit, and we're getting more. We're gonna be doing more of produced content too, as far as like video stuff, and
Yeah.
um, it's a doozy when you first start because it's really overwhelming, and then the editing part is really difficult, and then nitpicking it, and then the back
Yeah.
and forth, and then the sound,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and it's like
Yeah, well,
Oh,
the
sorry, go
woman
ahead.
the woman that I interviewed, Chidi Kumar, on the last podcast, is one of my best friends. She's also a really talented musician, like a really successful musician. And so she has experience doing audio recording. And so I was really like, she was like, okay, let's look at this. And she was like showing me things that I hadn't thought about. And I'm like, well, I want to know all these things. And it was little tweaks here and there. So I got really interested in trying to sort of think about, well, this could actually be not just a hobby. This could actually be
Oh,
called,
100%.
so I
Yeah.
don't know, just giving myself some time to get it right.
I don't blame you. I love that about you though. I mean, just reading your book. I mean, and I don't know if anyone hasn't heard of Lisa, and if you haven't, you live under a rock, because her baking, like, you are an award. First of all, you're an award-winning pastry chef. Your writing is off the charts. You're just an amazing human being. And
Thanks.
you wrote this fantastic, sorry, it's my notes, amazing book, Our Lady of Perpetual Hunger, that's just phenomenal. And there, what I really love about it too is that you're so, I mean, talk about sustaining yourself, because you're so driven, and it seems, at least in your writing in your book, that you know yourself so well, and if you don't, you still like advocate for yourself. That's just so wild and cool. And I love that. And I also love it, like you're saying, trying out this podcast and doing video content and stuff. And in the book, when you talk about Buttermilk Road, is that right? Am I saying that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I blanked for a second. And just starting the Sunday dinners and stuff, and then going like, you know what, this isn't fitting. This doesn't fit well and feel right. And I'm going to pivot and turn. And then, the restaurant scene with Husk, and going like, you know what, this is bullshit. This isn't what I'm about. This isn't who I am. And I love that. And I love that you write it with such honesty and doesn't he know we're busy?
Good, I'm glad it wasn't on my end. I was like, oh man, my bad Wi-Fi is striking again, but it was good.
Mine's always bad. Now my husband's calling me. God.
Jeez
Louise.
What are you drinking?
Well, okay, so I don't normally, well, I only drink really I drink beer. I'm not supposed to because I'm gluten-free, but I love beer. But I drink 2 canned drinks. One is Cutwater, which is really delicious alcohol.
I know it.
Which is super weird. I know, but it's really good.
I don't even know what it is.
It's like cocktail in a can, which sounds like super ridiculous. Like I don't like, I love a good cocktail, but to have it in a can just seems like, I don't know. It's supposed to be syrupy sweet, but it's really good. And then my friend Jenny Mullen sent this wine over, and I was like, what the fuck is this? But it's Jordan Salcido. She's the Psalm from Momofuku and 11 Madison.
Okay.
Is that right? So I was like, okay, I have to
it's probably great.
That's a big deal. And it's actually really, really awesome. So
it looks great. It's wine? It's
wine. It's a wine spritz. And it's actually really delicious, because normally they're really sweet, but this is really, really good. So
wine spritzes are made for cans. They're perfect for a can. I'm having a spritz too, but it's kind of a white trash spritz because I didn't have any Prosecco or champagne. So it's basically just bitters and soda water, which is fine. It's good for my tummy.
I have some champagne here because I wasn't sure how good this is going to be. So I'm trying on the side, but it's actually delicious.
Go with a backup plan. Hell yeah.
Yeah, totally. So we can double fist. But it's really, you got to try it. I'll send you some. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I actually, one of my best girlfriends always brings over canned wine. She used to bring over that Sophia, and now she started bringing over something else for our porch wines, and I can't remember what it was called now.
So
but I thought she would love to try that. Well, cheers. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thanks for coming. To more. So, what's new with you? No.
Just hanging out.
So I kind of start out this week with just saying sustainability. That's something that's really important to me. And sustainability, when we started deep diving into what that looks like and discussing it, it wasn't just about the environment. It wasn't about, let's take it on from the outside in, which is kind of what I've been looking at it from that perspective of, we got to tackle climate change, and we have to, recycle and do all these things, and that'll change carbon emissions, and I got to change my car, and blah, blah, blah. And I started really discussing it with friends and colleagues, and the more we talked about it, the more it was like, no, this is an internal thing. This is something that we got to fix from the inside out. So it's not just like externally changing these habits and I'm going to recycle, and I'm going to I'm going to throw everything away and whatever, but it's also like things that sustain me. So, and ourselves. So how can I do things that are going to make me feel better in body, mind, and spirit. And and what are those things? For me, it's reading, and I love like good yoga and meditation and moving my body, and baking, and those things that are like calming, and then also have like an energetic quality to them, and also give back too. Like with books, it's a book exchange, exchanging
Yeah.
ideas, and with baking, also like the materials and the ingredients and all of those things, and it's like cyclical and symbiotic.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of brings me here in chatting with you. I mean, your book has so much sustainability in it, from your advocacy for yourself and doing the things that are empowering you to move forward and propel you, and the decisions that you make in your life, and sharing that with others, the way that you bake and put that into the world, and the way that you choose your ingredients and the people that you align yourself with. It's just it's bigger than just like the environment. This is like, we have to talk about it in like a more broader term, and a personal term at the same time.
Right. Well, it's interesting that I think it's been an interesting arc this trajectory has taken this year of becoming if you weren't already hyper aware of a lot of the things going on in the world, not only to mention sort of like the new information with the pandemic, and I think a lot of people became incredibly overnight aware of a world that they weren't a part of, and their borders, as far as the health and wellness of external communities, was becoming really something that people became aware of. And I think the initial response was to pour out. And I think eventually people realized that they had to start making sure that their well was actually full of the right, and of the right things, whether that was mental health, physical health, or just the proper education to move forward, the proper tools, so that you can go out into the world and sort of know where you're best suited to help and to make change. And so it's been, I think, it's been an interesting, just on a purely sociological level, looking at sort of how that has happened this year, of watching sort of this really intense external response to the world, and how we need to be engaged to continue to push for the right changes to happen. And then I noticed, right around like when the weather started changing, everyone turned that back inside and went back inward, and has started having more conversations that like you're having right now, which is how do you sustain yourself so that you can do better for your community?
Yeah.
And I think it's just a really important part of this equation. And I think it's not just, I know we're going to talk about books and reading and writing today. I think there is a level of it, of course, that is like, wellness in the sense of what we eat and how we exercise and how we take care of our physical bodies. But I think there's also, for me anyway, there's an element of like sending myself back to school. There's a lot this year I realized I am miseducated about, or I don't even know. I'm going to a community college. It's not like I've worked in kitchens my whole life. I don't have some pedigreed education, and I want.
You don't need to. By the way, Dr. Jill Biden teaches at a community college.
Exactly. Community colleges are badass. Key. They're key for our country. And so I don't know. I think I think my initial response is to always feel a little concerned about like, not white womanizing this and like, I'm going to do yoga and make this better.
Yeah.
But having the conversation about what our responsibilities are from here and then dominoing out, I think is the key. And I think for me, I'm curious what the answer is for you. For me, I think I recognized that what I needed to do was re-educate myself and be quiet in those spaces. And that has felt really good to me, to just read books that I've never read before, that I should have read in college or I should have read in high school, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and that has helped, that's helping my writing, you know? So it's a good, it's good for, it's good for all kinds of rewards, I think, you know?
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me it's definitely been a lot of reading and deep diving and
Mm-hmm.
quiet, which it has been uncomfortable in some ways to like sit there and like really be silent with yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
not just like silent to think about what I'm going to do next and how I feel about X, Y, and Z, but just to not do anything.
Yeah.
And then also, getting uncomfortable and moving forward in discomfort, understanding, like you're saying, like we're not going to white woman our way out of this in a way. Like there are a million other perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and that we have to really look at that I didn't necessarily even understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking to more people, getting outside of not just this small community, but like broaden that community and figure out how we can all live together and work together and be uh, I'm learning from other people's perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
With environmentalism, there's such a um, there was so much that I learned just by talking. Green for All, which is such an eye-opening organization, and talking son trying to FaceTime my son. Um, but just, like intersectional environmentalism, or, just things that that I didn't even understand, and
Mm-hmm.
the disparity and unfortunate. Um, so I'm kind of trying to articulate this the best way I can, but just the way that the elitist kind of thing that sustainability is, and
Mm-hmm.
unapproachable, and
Mm-hmm.
um as I get and deep dive more into this, and want to make a bigger impact, just realizing if we want to make a big impact, it has to be green for all, and we have
Mm-hmm.
to be better for our communities, and that starts right here.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's sort of the key, not sort of, it's entirely the key to understanding, uh, if we can pull in smaller, we start solving a ton of problems. We start solving, we start working directly with farmers. Well, we have
yeah,
more farmers in our community. We can feed more people in our community. And all of a sudden there's a beautiful chain reaction that can happen when we, start from a much smaller square than, I don't know, pretending that, going to 1,000,001 big events to shout in the streets. I'm a lifelong street pounding protester, like,
yeah, I love it.
definitely. And I think there's a place for that. But I'm in a stage of my life now where that kind of work to me is, okay, we'll work backwards. What's solving
Yeah,
many problems? And for me, feeding people who, don't have the capacity to go and buy really expensive organic food, but connecting them to their own resources in their community where local farmers are growing food, 5 blocks away is a huge,
yeah,
huge step, and feeding people. And as a chef, that's a huge priority for me, is to get food on people's plates and to help them have better conversations in their life about what wellness and nutrition is. And that for me always starts with food and then backtracks into a bigger conversation about our environmental health. And so yeah, I mean, there are so many benefits to just circling your wagons, centering yourself in a small space. And if it gets bigger one day and you're affecting a bigger change, that's incredible.
yeah,
But your one small move can do a lot. It's
100%.
yeah, and I think that's a hugely important thing for people. I think people feel overwhelmed. What do we do? How do we help? Well, you start small. And
Yeah,
it has to, like you're saying, start here. And then you just make a couple of small moves and you'll find yourself in the right space and it'll start making sense. And you'll all of a sudden understand you know, what the obstacles and limitations are in your own community of, you know, people having access to healthy foods and kids having, you know, more than one meal a day.
Right,
You
I know, I
know,
know. Well,
so
and that was so insane understanding. I mean, the fact that a lot of people weren't getting fed during the pandemic because of
mhm.
school lunches and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's,
Yeah. No Kid Hungry is a really great resource for anyone that wants to start learning about food policy, agricultural policy. A lot of chefs work with No Kid Hungry to really bring their communities a little bit more into a space where we're having conversations about food insecurity. And so if anybody's interested, No Kid Hungry is a really great organization, and it's nationwide, and they do incredible tactile boots on the ground work, and they also do policy work in DC. So it fits a lot of different you know, if you want to go lobby in DC, and if that's your thing, you have the resources to do that, and a lot of chefs do that through No Kid Hungry. And then if you want to connect farmers with distribution warehouses and, you know, local you know, food banks in your community, that's also an aspect. And so any chefs that are watching, or anybody that's watching, you don't have to be a chef. A lot of chefs, or a lot of people that are a part of that organization are not chefs, but you can get involved, bring them into your community, and you'll have some built-in resources to help you have that conversation in your community.
yeah, no, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I knew of them, and I feel like I've worked with them, but I didn't realize the expansiveness of their organization, which is fantastic.
It's fantastic. And the James Beard Foundation's also doing similar initiatives as well. They have several different kinds of large scale initiatives, but they are fundamental in educating chefs as well and how to be policy changers. This is all very political, so it's probably very boring, but
No, I don't think so at all, though. I think it, again, it's like helping our community, and one of the cool things about sustainability is that there isn't like, it's not like you have to throw everything away. I saw someone call me out because I had a can, but look, I got a recyclable like a reusable like there are certain things that are going to work and not work, and
right,
everyone has different changes, and we're going to make different changes.
right.
So it's something like No Kid Hungry, knowing what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what change that you can make. What, you know, maybe someone lives in DC and is like, oh, I can go and help lobby and X, Y, and Z. And
well,
someone,
and I think it's important as a community to, I think we are definitely in a space in our country where we can all maybe potentially agree that extreme forms of anything aren't getting us anywhere.
yeah,
Extremism is not solving any problems at this point. And so if we can face where we're at in this space and time as Americans and as humans on a planet that needs our help, we can start to not be crazy, burn it all down, restart from scratch. But how do we rebuild the infrastructure where we are now? And the reality is we need our political leaders to be in step with that. We need bigger help than, you know, grassroots is a powerful thing.
yeah.
But we definitely need initiatives that start feeding people in our communities, and then we build out that are protecting our pipelines, that are protecting our native lands. So it becomes, all of a sudden you realize that when you start talking about how to keep kids fed, it's 5,000 other conversations. And that's the step, though. That's the real key, is getting people to have that first conversation, because if they go for a few steps beyond that conversation, they're not going to be able to not have the other conversations. And that becomes how we change culture.
100%.
So, yeah.
And everyone's tolerance or everyone's comfort level is going to be different.
Yeah.
So to continue to have these conversations and understand like where you fit in, and not be afraid to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, and I ask really stupid questions. But
same.
You know?
And I try to think about, even when I'm doing baking classes or when I'm doing anything, I always think, not because she's not smart, not because she's not capable, not because she's not aware or educated, but we are from different generations, and we are we do strive for different things in my life. So I always think about what my mom would want to hear or need to hear, or how it would need to be presented for my mom to be
Yeah,
excited about it. Because,
100%.
she comes from a generation of women that is, very easily intimidated, because that was how they were raised. And so I like to sort of always think about, like, how would my parents hear this best? And it's never through judgment. I mean, and nobody wants to be judged,
No, 100%. And I think that's what has been so hard about all of this is that
Yeah.
while we're in this pandemic, we get the news, and it's this or that. It's right, wrong. It's red and blue, and
Yeah.
again, not to get political, but I think what's so difficult is that there's this huge gap now between people and people shouting at each other as opposed to having these conversations, which has been so great about the Zooms is being able to chat and learn and be curious and
Yeah.
disagree, which is really important in humanity, to
Yeah.
disagree and learn from each other. And that doesn't mean that you're bad or I'm bad or nope.
I
It's
know.
no bad.
I mean, I literally I know that there's a lot of conversations about the value of criticism in particular in the food world, like food critics, like what's their purpose. And I value the critic. I value the critic so much. Yeah, I think I am probably deep down at heart a critic. Like I think about things and troubleshoot, and I really value, I think, artists in particular, writers in particular. My husband's a sculptor, and we've lived in a very creative life, for our whole marriage. I mean, he has gallery shows. Our friends are artists. I have writer friends. And I can remember when he was first showing his sculpture out of grad school. He had a gallery down in New Orleans that he showed in religiously, and he would get reviewed. Like, there were art critics, and a good review is great. A bad review is so much more helpful, right?
Really? I guess you're right. You're right. It's so hard, I think, when you put your heart out there and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. But if it's a critical, like, thoughtful, educated, academic, and thoughtfully put together, it's not an insult. It's not a you're shitty, stop doing this. It's keep going. Yeah, it's keep going, and here's where you're being reductive, or here's where you're being this, or here's where you're being that, which to anybody that really cares about their work is a gift.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. Yeah,
I think it's such a gift. Like, but somewhere along the lines, we lost academic criticism, and I think a lot of people don't value it. And I know that's a big conversation in the food world. Like, what do you need restaurant critics for? What do we need food critics for? Well, for one, I value a thoughtful review of someone who's not just, for frankly, like, having a big circle jerk about how great everything is in town. Like, everything can't be great. And
I agree.
And
we pussyfoot around it lately of like, no, you get an A, you get an A, you get an A.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have turned not almost, in a very short flicker of time in, like, the story of humanity, we have stopped as Americans knowing the value of criticism. And I really I don't want a bad review of my book, but I would love an honest review of my book. And if there were bad things in there, I would learn from that as a writer.
Yeah.
I would learn. I would say, okay. And truly, I think, like, the shittiest thing about me is that I would actually trust a bad review more than I would trust a good review.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, as long as it's like something that's, well, even if it's not necessarily like academic, as long as, I guess if it's there and you're like, oh, I see how I affected someone in that way. I didn't look at it from that perspective.
Sure, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like when it's good, it's like blanketed. Like, that was really great. It was a positive. And you're like, well, what was great? Can you be specific about what made you feel like that or whatever?
That's right. I think it's just, it can be enriching to have people who are, generating critical thinking about people's work. I think there's value in it. I can see why some people disagree. In the food world, it is a big conversation. But maybe I'm old fashioned, and I just.
No, I think you're right. I think you're on to something. I mean, I've been on such a kick. I've read so many food memoirs in the last few months and stuff, and it seems like with from David Chang's to, I feel like, who else? Even Ruth Raquel. Is that how I say her name properly? Raquel.
Reichel.
Reichel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like like the fear and like the accolades and like, you know, I feel like Alice Waters too. She, is that right? With hers, isn't she's Shea Panee, right?
Yeah, she's a Shea Panee, and she came out with a memoir, I think, just 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's great. And I was born in the Bay Area, so I remember my family talking about the restaurant and stuff, but just like the accolades and like needing, like being real pissed about not getting an award, but then being pissed if they do get an award, and then the downfall and like having to live up to it, and I think you're onto something. If you can kind of like live in this moment of like, that doesn't just, only one person can win this fucking thing, or whatever, like, so don't beat yourself up about it, but go like, well, how can I learn from the criticism that they gave me and like expand upon that or improve upon it, as opposed to like beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I think for someone who just was talking about the value of critical thinking and critical writing about, you know, art criticism and food criticism and literary criticism, I actually, you know, I think the awards culture is maybe dead. You know, I think maybe we're going to be hard pressed. I know the food industry is definitely probably never going to jump into an awards world again. And I think that's a great thing. You know, I think that's a really important thing. I think there was value in it, but I think we have to redefine what that value is. And it becomes really tricky. You know, it becomes a really tricky sort of like, who's paying to play, who's spending a ton of money on PR in order to get this, and who's being left behind. And that became political in its own way, and it became a very pay to play sort of system. And I think the curtain got pulled back on a lot of the fallacy of that this year. While I think that James Beard has grown into doing a lot more than awards, and I think that that's worth noting. But I do wonder if, you know, moving forward, we're going to have a redefinition of what our award culture looks like. You know,
I feel like there's going to be a new definition of everything in culture moving forward. You know, I mean, it's like this whole new rebirth that's like, what the fuck, like in my mind it's like a dream that we're gonna just suddenly take our masks off and just walk away, and that's just not gonna happen. And so it's this whole new way of connecting with people. I mean, now everyone's moving, and it's changing the way we eat, it's changing the way that we chat with each other and connect. And I mean,
what has been for you, like personally, maybe this is too broad of a question, but I'm curious, like what are you glad to not be taking with you next year? Like, what are you glad to leave behind? One thing.
I mean, like anything at all. I have to be honest, and this is, sorry to be crass, but I am not giving two fucks anymore.
Same.
I mean, and excuse me, but like, I'm just at the point where I feel like I went straight from being in college to then being a lead of a TV show to kind of being in that world and living this rat race. And I took some time off for the last bit to have kids and think I had to raise or look a certain way. Like I got my tattoos removed when I had my first son.
Oh, wow. And I noticed you got a new one this week.
And I got a new one, and I put my old ones back on.
Oh,
And
wow. Good for
I,
you.
yeah, well, it was just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I'm close to, I'm turning 40 this next year. And I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's that we've all been in hibernation and it's really having to real do some deep, dark dives in ourselves. But I am at the point where if I had received the negative comments on this thread, it might have like really thrown me at times, which is why I haven't done a lot of Instagram lives. And I'm at the point where I think it's like what you're saying, like the negativity that's coming up or whatever, criticism, it doesn't have to be negativity.
Yeah.
Um, it can't rattle me because
Yeah.
I feel like I am who I am at this point in my life. And I wish I had known this self at 20, because it would have saved a lot of heartache. But I'm
Yeah.
at that point where I'm a good person and I just want to do as much as I can in my life to be there for my kids, to put as much good into this world as I possibly can and give back
Yeah.
and get to know people and be hungry and curious. And that also means
Yeah.
letting go of being wrong and asking questions that might sound ignorant and stupid.
Yeah.
And that just means I can't give that.
Yeah.
I can't give a fuck.
No, it's a beautiful thing. I think it's incredible.
It feels really freeing. But some days are different. But
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a practice like
yeah.
everything else. I mean, we're still hardwired the way we're hardwired. And, I have been thinking a lot this year, especially since the book came out, about all of the ways, and some friendships have ended this year,
100%.
Some long, important, I thought were important friendships have ended in a really painful way this year.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. I'm going to try to make this a short story, but
No, keep it.
I
Whatever you want.
ended up getting back. I don't know why. Some account that I had was tethered to my Yahoo account. I haven't looked at my Yahoo account in probably 7 years. It was from way back. I think.
Oh no. Is the husband calling? Oh no. Are you there? Oh shoot. Lisa, where'd you go?
Sorry.
No. Is your husband calling like mine?
No, it's, this happened the other day when I was talking to Jenny Britton Bauer, and I thought I took it off both times, but I have the timer on my Instagram where it's like, your time for the day is up. And I keep trying to turn it off, but I don't know how to turn it off.
I do it too.
So anyway, long story short, I logged back into my Yahoo account and found several old emails about things that I had thought about. You have these lingering worries and fears like, oh, did I piss off that landlord? Or was I not good enough to that landlord? Or what did I do to make that situation worse? Things that you think about, but you can't resolve, you know? And I found these old emails and they were probably I think they were from 2007. So 2006 to 2007. So over 10 years ago, over a decade ago, little Lisa, like I was 20, so I must have been 30 at the time, 28, 29, 30 during this time of frame. And I came across several chunks of emails, like several clusters of emails. Some were to that particular landlord. And then the other set were to my sisters-in-law who I had, who I struggled with, and I never could put the pieces together of what I had done wrong, Yeah. And so it's always been sort of this after effect, like, did I handle myself right? Did I do right? And then as more time goes by, you let water be under the bridge and you just sort of hope you did the best. But you still wonder, like, how could I have done that better is always my, like, how could I have fixed that problem better? And it's always on me. It's always on me.
I'm the same.
I'm always holding myself accountable. And I looked at these emails and I felt so much compassion for myself. I was so I was doing so much of the heavy lifting of trying to make everyone communicate clearly and trying to communicate my intentions and what I was feeling. And I was being met with coldness and cruelty at every single turn.
Yeah.
And I was like it was so good to see. It was just good to see, like, I'm proud of the way I have behaved. I am proud of like that I used to go into every relationship situation just wide open, and I'll go with however. And then I realized as I was reading these emails how much those things changed me, how much now I go in like guarded, and like I don't want to overstep,
like
protect myself, like don't, you know, especially with other women, like can I trust other women? Can I, like, what's this about? Like, if I'm too open, they think I'm being fake. If I'm not open enough, they think I'm being cold. Like, you know, like where do I get to just be me? And then so fast forward to this year, you know, I found that this week, just yesterday, actually, or the day before. And I have been sort of thinking through a lot of these relationships. There aren't a lot. There are three relationships that I'm just done with, and this at this, like, no fucks given about it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm officially, for my own sake, saying, nope, I was wrong about you. And there's always that lingering doubt of like, am I wrong?
Yeah,
like,
100%.
But the reality
what do I need to do?
Yeah, the reality is, as a problem solver, that has been the best gift for me. And it is absolutely, I give no fucks.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm about now.
Yes.
And I don't have to like sit here and agonize over how I'm not right for you.
Yes. No, I love that. I feel the
don't
same.
have to do it.
That is so cool. It's not sustaining. That is not livable. You cannot live in that space. I'm the exact same, which is I would go over things in my head. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have been nicer. I probably drank too much and I should call them and apologize.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll like talk to like my husband who's there and he's like, you didn't do anything. Like, why did this call? And I'm like, because I just want to be liked and I want to make sure that it wasn't me, and I kept things like calm and good and fun. And it's like, what if I did fuck up? So what then? They hopefully like me for me that I fucked up and didn't. Like, I'd rather have someone know my authentic self than worry about it all the time.
Well, and not taking, I think, you know, I think that you can know your authentic self your whole life and still do too much to accommodate other people. And just like, there's a point where people don't, and this is going to sound much colder than I mean for it to be, but at some point you have to say, does this person deserve this much generosity from me?
Yeah.
And if not, I'm okay just keeping it for someone that does. And it becomes less personal, and then it becomes less like a beef, and it's like, okay, we go our separate ways here, and that's fine, you know.
100%. It's Ruiz, the 4 agreements, and one of them that I love is don't take anything personally.
Yeah.
You know, and it goes both ways.
If anybody wants like real-time practice with that, just work in a kitchen, a professional kitchen.
Oh my God, I can only imagine.
I would go work. I would take jobs. You know, for a long time I cooked I did some private chef work for several years. And one of the jobs was for a couple of years. And the first thing I said to her was, look, I promise you, nothing hurts my feelings. You can tell me that you hate what I just cooked, and I want to know. Like, I want that feedback. I promise I have no more feelings left to hurt.
No, I feel you.
I don't have feelings anymore is eventually what I started telling my private chef clients. Like, I just don't have feelings anymore. I really would prefer to know if you like or dislike something.
No, I love that.
Yeah, I'll be angrier if you are like eating something you hate. So
well, the best people are your children. I mean, I don't know if you find that, but the best people to tell you like fucking full on honesty. It's like, I don't like you right now. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to like me right now.
Yeah, and especially as they get older, it's just becomes you know, conversations about They keep you in step with the right things, you know.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter is really good at saying, I understand why you think that, but you should probably think about not saying any of that publicly and really work on why you still think that. Like, we got into a conversation 2 years ago, I think 1 or 2 years ago, about pronouns, and I was like, oh, it's just such a waste of energy, oh my god. And she was
Yeah.
like, it's not. And so, like, she is very
That's
good
awesome.
at
She's in
saying,
tune.
yeah, she's like, Mom, do you want to be, you know, an aggressor? Do you want to be someone who's progressing the conversation? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're
That's
right.
awesome.
So she keeps me from, you know, I think it's really, at this point in my life, I want to be really true to, I think, my core. And at my core, I think it's really good to be around young people so they can remind you and keep
How
you
to
abreast.
improve and grow.
Well, they know what's important, and you should listen, you know.
Although my daughter lately, her big thing is, um, what is it? I will accept your apology, but it's not okay. Like, that's her thing with everything lately. Like, okay.
Dang, that's powerful. How old is she?
3.
Woo!
She doesn't know it. I mean, it's because her older brother is saying
That's
it to her.
incredible. I think it's great.
So funny. She's so wild. Ugh.
Did we get any questions from the audience? I got a couple on mine, and I should have written them down or sent them to you.
No, I'm good. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I think that we have like basically 10 minutes, otherwise it won't save. So I'll make sure I'll throw in like some really quick questions. So, okay.
Is Odette your daughter's name?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at all the things just now. It's sweet.
She's wild.
She's 3, and your son is how old? 7?
So Sheppy turns 7 on Tuesday, and then Tom is 8.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, they're wild. They're super fun. And they're all so different and so wild. And how girls are like, they're just all so different.
God. It's so crazy. Wait till, I mean, my son turns 21 in March, which is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And my daughter is 16, and they are huge universes. They're just amazing.
I can imagine. That's insane. And I guess because I've just read the book, I still think of your son as a baby, and or I guess I think of you as pregnant with a daughter, and you know, that's so crazy and wild. Okay, so let me get to I'm starting to write a book on a website. Any advice on how to start?
A book on a website.
I don't know, maybe a blog?
Yeah, I can't help you with that, but I can tell you, let it be really messy if you're starting a book.
Oh,
find your sort of the narrative arc you want to follow. Kind of create almost an outline, not almost, create an outline so you know what path you're taking. But also maybe not, like maybe you just start. But I think the real key, if you're like a gusher like I am, I'm a gusher. I just, whenever I start writing, everything just comes out. I have all these big feelings, and I'm done trying to pretend that I don't.
That's awesome.
So the best advice I ever got was to just not be scared of how messy and terrible it's going to be.
But don't even say terrible. It's just going to be like diarrhea of the mouth.
It's pretty terrible. The trick is you will, and you will be sitting there going, this is terrible. This is terrible. Write it anyway. Yeah. And that's the trick. The trick is you knowing or thinking it might not be terrible, but you think it's terrible in that moment. The key is to make sure you're still writing it down, because the real craft of writing is the editing. The real craft of it.
Same within the acting too.
Yeah, the real craft is going back and then pulling out and not being scared to kill your darlings when you need to, and cut huge chunks of words. Save them on another document so they don't die forever. That's what you need to do. I did that a lot where I just wasn't ready to let something go. And so I had several auxiliary folders on my computer.
You're just so proud. Like, I love this.
You're just sure. You're just sure you're going to use it somewhere. You just know there's a place for it somewhere. I've never looked at those pages ever again. I don't even remember what I got.
What pages?
But I remember in the moment feeling like I couldn't live without those 400 words,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I would copy, cut, paste it onto another document. So at least it felt like it lived somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I got immersed in the process of the thing. I don't even remember what it was. And it was clear that it needed to go. You know,
Yeah.
if you're still thinking about those words an hour after you've cut them, yeah, okay, maybe go back and think about it.
Yeah.
But chances are you're going to realize very quickly
It
that,
makes sense.
yeah, you're like, oh, it's just hard to let go of the things that you think are so important. And then you read it as a reader and not as a writer, and you're like, well, it's better.
Yeah.
And a good edit, you know. And if you have the capacity, if you have someone in your life that you trust who is good at reading and writing and editing, just get someone to like back you up. Like get your manuscript to a place where you feel comfortable and share it with somebody with a red marker.
Yeah.
You know, with a marking pen. I mean,
someone has a really
editor,
good
huge.
someone has a really good question, which was, oops, sorry, it's dark outside, so I have to change my camera thing. Someone asked, has there been any criticism that's helped you with your book? Any like particular nugget that was like super helpful?
You know, I think we live in a world where people don't do that anymore. And you know,
so no one was like, hey, Lisa, this piece right here, I'm not feeling it. Like, was it just like, this is amazing, I'm gonna publish this?
No. I mean, there have been emotional criticisms that you have to put into a secondary place from the work. There was plenty of emotional, how dare you, and you're a liar. There is
like from like other people, you mean?
Yeah,
forget them. I mean,
yeah,
like,
there's
like
plenty of that kind of emotional criticism, but people don't often say, hey, I read your book, let's talk about this. Like,
really?
There's not a lot of that happens anymore. Now, when I get a little farther away from this moment, you know, the book just came out in August. It's still very much just out of my womb. It's very close to me still.
And it's beautiful. Please, everyone, if you're watching, please go buy Lisa's book, Our Lady of Perpetual Hunger. It is fantastic. It's so good.
I think what I would like to do, I have some very good writer friends who I trust implicitly, and I would like to maybe just sit with them and say, can you give me like an honest review, like an honest, like I want to do that I have a couple of friends who are writers who I trust, and you know, I would love to have a meeting with them and ask them their thoughts as a writer and how I can be better. I mean, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and this wasn't just a personality memoir. This was me for the first time getting to just be a writer and to work with I think the gifts that I want to like really hone and get better at, and I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So I think as soon as I feel, maybe when the paperback comes out, I'll sit with, you know, some friends. I have a couple of friends in Nashville who are incredible writers, technically really great writers, and contextually, like the content of their books, of course, are great. But like, I would just love to know, like some honest artist to artist feedback.
Yeah.
I need some more time.
No, I feel you. Yeah, you need to be distant from it for a little bit to like. Yeah, I understand that. I really want to keep talking, but I'm worried it won't save.
Okay. Oh, will it stop saving it after an hour?
That's what I was told. Can anyone in the comments, is this true? Because again, I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to this. If we go over an hour,
we can end it. We had some good. We touched on a lot of good
points. That's true. It's true. Lisa, I might call you afterwards to continue this. No,
seriously, I could talk to you all night. We should just have Friday night.
I would love it. We need to make it a thing. It'll be like Buttermilk Road and like part 2.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh my God, thank you.
This was incredible.
And, I learned so much. This was awesome.
I did too. It was really fun. We'll stay in touch, but it
Let's
was
do
nice
it.
to do this in front of people.
I love it. Thank you again.
And thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.